In this lesson, we're going to work with alerts. Alerts are little pop-up messages that can tell the user something, or ask them for input, or ask them to make a decision. So we're going to have a really basic storyboard. We're just going to have 4 buttons. We're going to show you a simple alert view, just has an OK button. We're going to show you how to use custom buttons. You can put anything you want to in a button. We'll show you how to use a text box alert so we can get some text from the user. And we'll show you a very simple user password login. So we just made connections for those buttons. And that's it for the storyboard. The code is really doing all the work. So on our first button, we want to do a simple alert. So we create a UI alert controller and we set some properties on it. We're going to set the title property and we're going to set that to simple alert view. We'll set the message. And of course the message is usually longer than the title. And we'll set the preferred style, and this has to be UI alert controller style .alert. So that's the alert controller, and now we can add actions to it. And the actions show up as buttons on the alert, but we also can get the event when that button is tapped. So I'm going to create an OK action, and that's a UI alert action. And the button itself will have a title. It's just the text on the button. And we can use various styles. And they'll be of the enumeration UI alert action style. In this case, we're just going to use default. And then in this area, we can run any code we want to in response to this particular button click. So I'm just going to log that the OK button was clicked. Now that I've created that OK action, I go to my alert controller and add the action, OK action, the one I just created. So now I've got my alert controller created. It has its title, its message, and we have added an OK button action. So now I call present view controller and pass in the alert controller. And we'll throw in a little animation just for fun. So let's show you that, and then we can look at some more complex examples. Here's our simple alert, and it pops up what you might think is just a message box. So we have our title, our message area, and our action button. And when I click it, of course, it dismisses. And we'll also note that we did indeed log that the OK button was clicked. So that's the real basic version. So let's move on a little bit. Now we're going to have some custom buttons. So we're going to create our alert controller in exactly the same way, with a title, a message, and the preferred style alert. Nothing's different there. And our actions really aren't tremendously different either. We're creating a UI alert action, we're setting the title, and we're setting the action style. And I'm going to create 3 buttons. Button 1, button 2, and no, not button 3, a delete button. Button 1, I'll use the action style default. Button 2, I'll use cancel. And button 3, I'll use destructive. So you can see the 3 choices we have for styles. And each one of those actions, I'll call add action on the alert controller. So I'm going to have the 3 buttons on my alert. And then I call present view controller exactly the same way as I did before. So here are our custom buttons, and you can see the difference between the styles, the default, the destructive, and the cancel. Mistake? Oh, I was right, sorry. That wasn't a mistake. Okay, back to our normally program. So when I click on button 1, Down in the logging, you can see that button 1 was clicked. And if I click on the delete, you can see down here that it logged that the delete button was clicked. And I'll bet you button 2 works as well. Perfect. So you can see how I can have individual actions and code to respond to those actions for each one of the buttons. So of course you might think of this as an OK cancel kind of situation or a yes no kind of situation where you're going to do things differently depending on what the user selects. And that's a real common usage of an alert as well as just the straight message. Another common usage is to provide an area for the user to enter some text. So we're going to create a text box to the alert. And I'm going to create a variable of UI text field type. We'll just call that input text field. And we'll create our alert controller, same as we have before. And I'll create a UI alert action. And we'll call it OK. And it's going to be an OK button. And when the user taps the OK button, I'm going to log the input text field's text. Now you can imagine that I'm going to use that input text field as the text field on the alert. In order to create, In order to create a text field on an alert, I call the method addTextField with configuration handler. And I tell it that it's a UI text field. And then I set some properties on that UI text field. I can set its placeholder text. And we're just going to say enter text for the placeholder. And then I can take that text field variable and set my local variable input text field equal to that text field. And that's the way I'm going to end up passing the value of the user's entry into my OK action through that input text field. And then I call presentViewController, works the same as it ever does. So here's my text box alert. And you can see the text box and the OK action. And I can enter some text and say OK. And down in my logging, you can see that it logged the text that I entered. So that's a basic text box entry. And the key to it is that I can have a UI text field and that I set the text field when I create the add text field with configuration handler, and I can set my local variable equal to that text field variable in the method. So the last one we're going to look at is similar. We're going to create a little login. So we're going to have two text fields, one for username and one for password. We'll create our alert controller, same way we have before. We'll create a cancel action, and we'll use a cancel style. We'll create an OK action, and use a default style. We're going to log the results, and we're just going to log the username and the password. And then we'll add the text field with configuration handler. And we're going to add the username exactly the same way as we did before. And we'll set our local username variable equal to the text field. And then we're going to add a password text field as well. And we're going to do one thing that's different. We're going to set the secure text entry field equal to true. And that will make it a password type entry field, so the characters will get blocked out. And we'll set our password variable equal to that text field. And we'll give this one a run. So here's our alert. We have our username and password areas. We have our cancel and OK buttons. We have our username in plain text, and the password gets blocked out. And when I say OK, I do indeed log my username and password. And of course, I can do whatever I want to in my code with that once I've gotten it. And obviously, you would probably want to validate it. So those are the really common uses for alerts. And there are more things that you can do with them. And of course, you can do custom buttons, so you can do a lot of different actions and request different input from the user. But those are the basics of the user alert.